This episode may not be suitable for all listeners. Therefore, listener discretion is advised.
That's the funny thing.
Hello, strange ones.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Faith.
And I'm Sharon.
And this is She Sees Weird People.
That's the funny thing.
All right, welcome everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the story of Esther Beckley and Shane Harrison. It's the Hollywood video murders that took place in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so it's me, Lisa, telling this here story, and I've got my partners here. Okay, so first I want to ask what you two think about Albuquerque, what your experience of the city of Albuquerque is.
You just never hear any good things about Albuquerque. Like, I swear, hardly ever do you ever hear a good thing about it.
Yeah,
It's terrifying because it's the second highest crime rate in the United States. It's close to the border of Mexico. There's a lot of drug trafficking and human trafficking. Lots of serial killers come in and out and through there.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of theories about like kind of a network of serial killers who.
Yeah, because the exchange is right there. It's right between I-25 and I-10.
Mm-hmm.
And
the trucker theory of like that
there's so much going on. So much going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I lived there for a little while and I never felt safe. I had fun and there was a lot of cool things to do. And I never wanted for anything like, oh, I need to go to a different town. But I never once felt safe.
That wasn't the best part of your life either. You got the swine flu. You were in college, and you got the swine flu and strep throat all at the same time.
I was locked in me dorm.
Yes.
They wouldn't let me out of the dorm. I was just alone in there, like, barfing my brains out, so that was really cool.
Fun times.
My experience of Albuquerque is the pig flu.
The pig flu and the rape buttons every 50 feet.
Oh, yeah, when I started at UNM, which I didn't end up graduating from there, but when I started there, I went on like a tour of the campus with the people that show you everything, and I was like, what are all these buttons for? And one of the RAs was like, oh, they're the rape buttons. And I was like, what? She's like, because there's a really high number of sexual assaults at UNM, unfortunately. And in the sports arena, that's all I'll really say about it. But it's scary.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of a good, like, that's the metaphor for the whole town. There should be buttons everywhere for help.
Yeah, really. That's true.
Yeah.
And Central is terrifying, so you don't want to go on. Central's a rough place, so.
Yeah, there's a couple cool places to go out there if you pick, like, the right part of town, but most of Central is trash.
Yeah, I really love the Sandia Resort, though. That's pretty awesome. That was great.
Vacation spot.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know it's kind of like a little bit of a seedy town, but it also has, families and schools and like 2 million people nearly that live there, and churches and steeples, and here's all the peoples. Just kidding, but they have,
yeah.
It's still a place where,
It's very diverse.
It's really diverse, yeah.
That's the funny thing.
So we'll start in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1995. Esther Beckley is released from prison early into a reintegration program after spending time in prison for trafficking cocaine. And so she's already a gem, and she meets John Lascelles, who's another convict who is out on parole, and they appeared to be in love. And I can't speak to what kind of relationship they really had, but it just sounds like it would be rough, like a couple of ex-convicts out on parole, like with like drug charges and that kind of thing. It sounds maybe not healthy. Yeah, 25-year-old Shane Harrison comes into the picture because he knew John from prison. He was one of his prison mates, and so Shane was also released into a reintegration program after being convicted of armed robbery. So they're real crimes, but they didn't really serve real time. And so they're all friends and they spend time together and whatever. And then you move to 1996, and it's reported that Esther found herself with a 17-year-old boy in the home that she shared with John, intimately. And John comes home and he beats the hell out of this kid. And Esther's in her 40s, by the way. So she's 41. And Shane is 25. And so she's with this 17-year-old. Her man, John, comes and beats the kid. And he violates his parole. And so he goes back to prison because Esther is a freaking weirdo. And also, anger issues.
She looks like someone's grandma, though.
Yeah, so much trash grandma. The grandma they never talk
All right,
to.
so trashy Grandma Beckley.
Hey, Esther.
Tell Granny Esther, trashy Granny Esther, you want to tell her you want a snack.
Yeah, and so she's in her 40s. Shane's only 25, this other guy. And so her boyfriend John goes back to prison after breaking his parole. And she's left with Shane, and they start, according to reports, being intimately involved with each other and form a close relationship and start living kind of a wild life. They start robbing local businesses, and they're pretty brazen because Albuquerque isn't that big. They chose weird small places.
Yeah, it's not big enough for it to be your only.
You go to a gas station and rob it, and they're like, Jan? What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
We went to school together.
Yeah. Don't you remember dance team?
I just filled up your car 2 days ago, remember?
Yeah. It's people will start to notice, and they're robbing these businesses. Esther bought a couple of BB guns, which she thought would be sufficient to start the robberies. Well, okay, but
Esther.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, so they have now, when you buy BB guns, you put the orange. They have the orange on there, on the plastic, so you know the difference between a BB gun and a real gun. But in the 90s, they didn't have that in place, and so they looked like real guns. And so she was like, we could get by with this. But Shane didn't agree, and so he bought a Tech 9 semi-automatic handgun and a shotgun. And he started bringing those. And so she's got her BB guns, and he's got a Tech 9 and a rifle that he's like, nah, Esther, we need.
Well, I'm a Gen Xer, okay? And my brother used to shoot me with a BB gun. And that isn't enough to stop you, but it is just enough to piss you off.
Yeah.
You know? It's enough to make you
get that BB gun and beat someone back.
Beat someone to death with it, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's enough to. We're all lucky to be alive from the 80s, but that's fine. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and now with gun violence, guns need to be clearly identified if they're for what they are, I guess. So, if it's a BB gun or an airsoft gun, I think it has to have the orange on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she says, Esther claims that she thought that they were just going to go with the BB guns every time, even though she knew he bought these guns. So we're about to get to the actual crime, but I thought it would be kind of funny to first ask, what is Hollywood video?
Oh, yes. Hollywood video.
Yeah, you don't see them anymore.
I have no idea what that is.
But you know what Blockbuster is.
Oh, yeah.
This was another company that basically did the same thing.
Oh, okay.
And so we'd go... We didn't go to Hollywood Video. We went to Blockbuster.
Yeah. And we would go on Friday night.
It was so exciting. What are we going to pick? And then, go home and watch it. And it was actually the best night ever. Not like now, where you can. There's like 9 million movies, and you're like, this night sucks.
You even get real butter on the popcorn. What is this crap?
Well, and they had VHSs, and I remember when I was like 11 or 12, they were switching everything over to DVDs. So,
yeah, that was the moment in which she.
I became a woman when when they started switching to DVDs.
I remember one night we were watching a movie, and there was we were all on the floor, and we had the VHSs. That's what we were using. And a sex scene came on this movie, which I didn't know was in there. And all my kids, all of them are in the floor, and there's a bunch. And I'm trying to fast forward.
It was just really fast sex.
Yeah. I was trying to fast forward through, and it was just really, really fast sex. The kids were all, eyes are huge. They're looking at the TV, and I'm like, don't look, don't look. And everybody's looking.
Yeah, it was the scene in Jerry Maguire.
Oh,
Dirty
yeah.
little
I did not expect that.
Jerry fucking Maguire.
Meanwhile, my parents are taking me to The Hangover.
What do tigers dream of? It's a great jam. So, yeah, Hollywood Video. Old school. That was like before Netflix, and then Netflix took over. So, Shane and Esther start planning to rob Hollywood Video, which is random. And it's under what some reported to be a ruse of, here you can get enough money to get John out of jail. This may or may not be true. I don't think it probably is, because like two people committing crimes together that are a man or a woman, and there's like drugs involved and weapons. It sounds like a passionate love affair rather than they were trying to get her boyfriend John out of jail with the money.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that. I mean,
we can get him out together.
We got this.
She's pretty much sleeping with whoever. Anyway.
That's what it seems like.
So.
Yeah. And so, on March 2nd, it's reported that Shane went to Hollywood Video before the actual robbery at closing time. And the girl working at the time wouldn't let him in because it was closing time. So, he got, irritated, but also, like, it would be you can't, like, force your way into it in front of people, and there are people still there. And so he leaves. And they go back the next night on March 3rd, 1996, and Shane and Esther stay in the store until the last customer checks out and leaves. Now, the young lady working the night before, she'd gone home from work sick. Like, she wasn't feeling good the night that he had tried to come in, I guess, and the next day she was like, I'm sick, and so they told her, stay home because you're sick. And so she did, and I'll tell you more about her in a little bit. So she continues to stay home and get well, and so Esther and Shane are in Hollywood Video, and it's closing time, and they bring out the guns and make their intentions known. The girl working at the counter is Mylan Dayathi. I'm not sure if that's right, but it's Mylan. Mylan's 30, and they demand of her that she give them the surveillance video and the money, because they've been in there all night, so they've got a lot of surveillance of them. And there were two other workers in the store named Jawanda Castillo, who was 18, and Zachary Blacklock, who was 19, and so they're kids. And Zach goes into the office at the same time as Mylan, and then Shane brings Jawanda into the office shortly after. So they're all in the office, and at this time, Shane asks Mylan to go to the front to collect the money, and he sees a car outside. 72-year-old Pauline McDougal and 78-year-old George McDougal, they came to pick up their grandson, Zach. So the 19-year-old. And they came at 2 in the morning when the place closed to get him to make sure that he made it home safe. And they're just like this cute little old couple. You can look up a picture of them. And they're at 2 in the morning. Like,
Who's, who else is
Grandparents
going
are
to get it?
legit.
Your grandma and grandpa are going to get up for you at 2 in the
Or
morning.
your grumpy ass dad.
Yeah, your grumpy ass dad.
Yeah, my
Well, I would have come for you too, but I would have been like, when are you getting your license?
yeah. Yeah. But apparently Shane needed a ride. And so they know that it's Zach's grandparents, and Esther goes out to distract them. And Shane's in the office with the 2 teenagers and Mylan, who's 30. And so Esther goes out. She knocks on the window and tells them that her car is messed up. She knows their grandson. She's cold, and she asks to sit in their car to get warm. And it is cold outside, and they oblige because they're like these cute elderly people, and they let her in the car.
No.
Because she says, I know Zach, and I'm cold, and I'm just waiting for my ride, or like my.
And if they thought she was another coworker or something, because how are you gonna let somebody in your car in Albuquerque? It's not.
Okay, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't.
And meanwhile, Shane's got the three on the inside in the office, right? And so Esther's outside with them. Almost as soon as she's in the car, she pulls a gun on them. At this point, Esther claims to have heard gunfire as Shane shoots all 3 of the individuals inside. And she said that it sounded like a hammer on cement, and like as if she'd never heard a gunshot. I'm like, oh, whatever, girl. You live in Albuquerque. She's like, what was that? That
Give it a little
terrible
jazz.
noise. Yeah. And so Shane comes out and takes over with Pauline and George. And Esther starts following in the car that Shane came in. And so this means, in theory, she could have taken off at any period here, right? Like, she's in the car following him. He's driving with the grandparents in the car.
See, this lady lost me when she is sitting in the back seat of 2 elderly people, pulling a gun on them while her boyfriend is inside killing people.
Yeah, well, she lost me with a 17-year-old boy.
That's what I was about to say. The 17-year-old.
I know.
Well,
like,
yeah,
ew,
that
Esther.
was it a long time ago. But I mean, as far as is she a victim or is she involved? She's freaking involved.
No, clearly. Like, and I'm not saying everyone with the criminal history is bad, but she was purposely rolling around in, like, shady situations, clearly. And so she's in that car, and she could have taken off at any time. And so there are 2 stories about what happened next, of course, because you have 2 people facing charges. And so Shane essentially says that Esther killed them, and he actually claims that he wasn't even there. Like, he says he wasn't there for any of the actual shootings.
Well, I thought Esther just had a BB gun. Shane.
Yeah, and so that's a point, is that the Tech 9 and the rifle are in Shane's name. He bought them. And so he says that Esther killed them and he wasn't there. Esther says that Shane drove them to the East Mountains outside of Albuquerque and executed Pauline and George with the shotgun. And she says that he shot both of them with the shotgun and that they were making noise still, and that she tried to stop him at that point, and that he unloads the Tech 9 into both of them, which is horrible. And they both had multiple gunshot wounds from both the Tech 9 and from the shotgun. And
Why? Why not just leave them there? I mean, you could have just
why not
taken
just punch him in the face and run?
They're little old people. What were they really going to do to you?
No, they it's like one of the most unnecessary. Like,
Well, because they could have walked out of the store and just been gone, and like,
yeah, what are 2 little old people gonna do?
Lock your teenagers in the office. Walk out the door.
Well, and you're trained, if you work in retail, to just give everything.
yeah.
You don't just like give it to them. It's not worth your life. They were doing it.
I did chase one person one time. I threw a bell at her, but
You get back here.
she made me mad. I knew she was gonna steal.
She's like, it's on principle.
Just in case anybody needs face ready for hire for security.
She's tough.
I'm a tackler.
A tackler. And so, yeah, it was, I know most murders seem pretty unnecessary, like, maybe not self-defense, but there's just no reason, like, absolutely no reason to hurt those two people. And so their bodies were found in the East Sandia Mountains a day later, close to their vehicle. Their vehicle was found, and each had died from multiple gunshot wounds, like I said, from a rifle and a Tech 9 that had fingerprints from both Esther and Shane on both guns.
Can you even imagine what the victims have? I mean, there's these kids, and all they care about is they're going to get home because tomorrow they're going to go do whatever they do with their friends, or they're going to church with their family, or they're whatever it is they're doing. They're just working, trying to get through school, probably, buying their first car and all this other crap.
Yeah. All I thought about was my friends and working and shopping. I was like, I'm going to go shop. I'm going to go out with my friends. I'm going to go back to work and do it all again.
Yeah.
Never thought about anything
And
scary.
this little old couple that have lived their entire lives sitting in this car worrying about their grandson, worrying about each other, knowing they're probably going to die. I mean, what looks did they exchange? What words did they exchange? That hurts my heart.
Yeah.
That breaks my heart. I can't stand that. The thought of that. Two people who don't care about anyone else.
Grandparents, a woman, and 2 kids. That's who these two go after. So super tough, obviously very tactful.
Absolute POSs. Absolute.
Fucking garbage cans. Yeah. So the police response was pretty swift, which, usually it's like, I wish the police had done better in, a lot of the podcasts that I hear, but the police and the community come together and they raise, I read 2 different numbers, $93,000 and $96,000 as a reward for information. So in the days after, they find the guns, and clearly they have fingerprints because it's reported that they both had used both of the guns. And they don't know who they belong to yet, but Esther is still seeing John. Well, she's still with John, who's in prison.
Okay, John's in prison.
John's the boyfriend in prison.
And Shane is
Shane's the douchebag who kills people and she cheats on John with.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so John's still in prison, and she calls him up while he's in prison and tells him, he's says something about her her infidelity. And she says, I killed for you. And he's in prison, and there's a $93,000 reward, and John's like, I know who did it. Because she thought
because John's, such a reliable human being and so loyal to,
Yeah, and later Esther says, I only said that to try and impress John, and I believe that. I think that she was trying to, I'm this scary, kind of badass in her eyes of,
in love with you.
Yeah, I would do anything for you. No one else would do this. No one else will ever love you. Super healthy.
And how smart you got to be to say that on
the recorded line.
Yeah, of the prison. I mean, gee whiz.
Yeah, and he gets the reward because he turns her in and he testifies. So he gets.
I mean, technically, she did help him out.
I know that's not funny.
No, it is funny. He gets $100,000 after she cheats on him for ratting her out.
She said she wanted to get him some money to get him out of jail. She managed.
She did the
damn thing.
You know what? I hadn't even thought of it that way.
She did the damn thing.
Achieved. You go, Esther. Go to hell. No, I'm just kidding. So she's like, I killed for you, and he's like, I told on you, and he gets the reward. And so, yeah, according to the forensics that I do know, which I have very little forensic information on this, I also have very little information on their childhoods, which is something I try to go for, but I couldn't find anything. Not very much. He was from Albuquerque, he was young, he had a lot of charges for assault, battery, that kind of thing. And she had been a drug addict a long time, and I looked up her court records in New Mexico, and she had a few things. She lived in Lovington for a while, but I don't have a lot of history on them. Anyway, so both of them shot both guns, so it's likely they both shot George and Pauline. And robbery, it seems like robbery was the motive. And opportunity maybe is like they're open for actual murder because there's no connections or like resentments to anyone who worked there. The grandparents just happened to have a grandson who worked there, and so they were just awful humans. And the district attorney at the time, Bob Schwartz, he straight up says, "I will tell you, robbery is still the apparent motive." So, yeah.
To kill. Motive? That's crazy.
Yeah, they're like, we're gonna, and guess how much money they made off with?
Probably like 200, if that.
What do you think?
5.
Well, it was more than that. It was like $4,000, but like five lives for $4,000. Like,
well, this was like Friday night or whatever.
It was a Saturday.
Well,
that's more than I thought.
All them late fees,
on a
baby.
Saturday. Yeah.
They're like, you didn't return your DVD for 3 days, and now you owe us $275.
That's crazy.
Oh my God. $4,000 for. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That makes me.
Yeah, if you can put a price on life, then you are despicable. So they're arrested separately 9 days after the murder, and that's how long it took to get the information, get the warrants. And like I said, the police and community response to this was appropriate. It was appropriately quick and goal-oriented. They gather close to $100,000. Albuquerque can be like a pretty scary place, like we said, but also it's a community. And so when this happened, it was huge and heartbreaking for the city. And it put Albuquerque on the map for a minute there. Like, the New York Times even did a story on it, which some of the info I took is from that resource, even though it was really limited. But it was weird to see a New York Times article with New Mexico even mentioned in it.
You know, we said a lot. We talked a lot of trash about living or being in Albuquerque, but we have a family member that lives there, and they live in a really nice part of town, and they do fun things, and they love it there, and there is a lot of community.
There's a lot of culture there.
Yeah, there is. It kind of reminds me of
pride
El Paso,
is the word I'm
Illinois.
looking for. There's a lot of pride there.
Yeah, like if you live in Duke City, which is what they call it, like people are proud.
Yeah, and it has a big university there, and it has.
The school is good. It's a good school, especially for science. That's where like everyone, like Sandia Labs,
Yes.
is near there. And
Yeah, it is a good place. Maybe it's just terrifying to me as a tourist
I think it's
because I don't live there. I've been there several times, and medical care there is really good. So I mean, you do. Yeah, I can see, why people go there, but it is not some place that you'd want to go by yourself. You shouldn't do that.
no.
A lot of the hotels have gated fences too, which is weird. Like, you go to a hotel and you gotta go through the gate and everything.
Yeah, and they lock you in and lock you out.
Not to be a jerk, but the zombies come out at night. You have to be careful. Like, there's this guy on Instagram and TikTok that lives in Albuquerque. I can't remember his name right now. Like, maybe post it in the show notes or something. But he's always like, "I love Verga. This is fucking Albuquerque."
Yeah.
And he makes fun of how it could be like a little ghetto sometimes, and it's pretty hilarious.
And this girl I remember that when he was asking for gas, and he was like, "I don't have no gas." Like, come on, man.
Yeah, hook me up with some gas money. And you're like, this is not gas money. This is something else. So they get arrested. Esther, to this day, tries to play the victim. She says she was essentially a victim and bystander herself, even though she drove a car by herself behind Shane, and She had used both the shotgun and the Tech-9, so she's not even good at playing the victim. She does a jailhouse interview, which I watched last night, stating that she's quote-unquote guilty of not stopping Shane.
Whatever. Nope, Esther. Absolutely. There's a big fat nope.
Well, yeah.
You're no.
They asked her why she pled guilty, and she said, because I am guilty of not stopping him. And she's like, I couldn't stop him. And she like starts weeping. But in return for her guilty plea and for testifying against Shane, she evades the death penalty. So
well, good for her, but you know what?
It's all coming together, though. Like, that's why she pled guilty.
Uh-huh.
Smooth move.
Why, if you're so innocent, if you're just, you could have stopped some of this. You could have gotten in the back seat of the car with those old people and told them exactly what was going on and driven somewhere and called the cop. There's so many other choices she could have made. I mean, it could have started right there. She could have alerted someone that things were going on so the kids could have gotten... she's fuller of shit than a Christmas turkey.
Well, they were in... Yeah, and they were both in the video store with other witnesses. She could have left. If I got in the car at that point and he had... I mean, obviously she tricked them into letting her into the car. You know, she, like, conned him.
Yes, she did.
But even so, like, if I had the car to myself after, I'd be like, skirt! Like,
see you later.
Like, take the hell off, you know, and go, you know, run away. But she didn't.
No, and the fact that she conned them to let her into the car tells me everything I need to know about her intentions.
Yeah, and then she just starts crying in her jailhouse interview like a jackass.
You're crying in your jailhouse interview because you're going to rot in prison. That's why you're crying. You're crying because you got caught.
Mm-hmm. Or did she? No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to keep telling the story. I thought I'd throw that in there. She gets caught. She does.
Yeah, I hope you saw the look on my face, too.
So, yeah, she says that's why she ultimately pled guilty and she's convicted. And in return for her guilty plea and all that, she evades the death penalty. And she says she never pulled a trigger. That's what she says. She pleads guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder, conspiracy charges, robbery, and several other ones. She's sentenced to 95 and a half years with possible parole well into her hundreds. So she'll be like 160 or something. And so she's locked up at Western New Mexico Correctional Facility in Cibola County. It's the only women's correctional facility in New Mexico. And so Shane altogether gets 14 jury convictions total, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, burglary, robbery, and kidnapping. And he's sentenced to 258 years in prison with a chance of parole after 160 years. And Esther testifies against him, claiming that she tried to stop him from shooting the elderly couple and that she thought the BB guns were enough and he didn't. And Shane's lawyer tries to defend him by saying Esther and John LaSalle, the boyfriend, the jailhouse boyfriend.
He's in jail. Okay.
Yeah. She says that, or he says that Esther and John set him up. And the jury didn't buy it, which, you know, it's his weapons.
What a crock of shit.
Yeah, like, and what an idiot. And so he's convicted, but notice neither one of them have 5 murder convictions. And that is because on the first 3 murders of Mylin, Zach, and Jawanda, the jury couldn't unanimously agree that he was the one who committed these murders with Esther, having been there. And I guess if it's conspiracy and you can't tell which one pulled the trigger without any doubt, then they take the death penalty off the table completely because he wasn't singularly like planning and they couldn't figure out who pulled the trigger.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and they didn't retry him because he already had 2 life sentences plus a few decades. And so they're like, we're not going to spend the money or the time retrying someone who's in life
That
or
very
in
much
prison.
sounds like something New Mexico would do.
Yeah, he's in prison for life. We're not going to try him. But the family members were not okay with that because it didn't feel like justice.
Well, why would it? That's somebody's kids or sister or brother, their son, their uncle, their grandparents. Why would anyone feel okay with anything? I mean, I just don't see how there's ever could be justice for that. You can't kill them enough times or put them in prison long enough to make anything that happened okay.
Yeah.
And nobody in this, it isn't like any death of a child is sad, and any time an elderly person dies is sad. But, if you've got a child who dies from an illness, and you were there to say goodbye, and you held their hand and you comforted them when they were gone, and you were able to go through all the grieving processes, how do you even do that with something like this? How do you even do this when your kids died scared and alone in an office building?
Well, yeah, and a lot of these, you can't even look at family members that have been in brutal killings, because they don't look the same, and
it's horrific.
Yeah, it's really, really fucking sad. And so they didn't retry him. He's serving his time at the Southern New Mexico Correctional Facility in Donna Ana County, so down by Las Cruces. I forgot to mention they moved the case from Albuquerque to the district court in Cruces because there was so much media attention on it.
That's the funny.
So Zach, the 19-year-old boy whose grandparents were there, he has family members that, they were some of the family members that were upset about Shane not being retried. And one of his cousins is now a victims advocate in Albuquerque. She's very popular there, and I don't want to mention too many names or anything because, they've been through enough. Yeah. And so how I told you I was going to mention the girl that got sick at work and they sent her home? Okay, I don't know why I waited till this time to tell you this. It just left my brain, but she's the one who found them. She went into work
the next day. Oh,
yeah,
no.
after she had been scheduled.
So now you got a whole nother victim. That's fabulous.
Yeah, she was scheduled to work, so I'm sure she has survivor's guilt. And she was supposed to be there, and then she goes to work and she
Whoever
finds them.
took her place too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and I'm not going to say her name either because it's you do the work if you want to go cause someone heartache. But she's shouldn't have been involved in any way. Nobody should have.
Nobody should have. And
Yeah, you should watch that jailhouse video with Esther. She's such an a-hole. I hate when people fake cry. I hate it. I'm so sorry. Oh. Okay, so Shane was initially the more hardened criminal and had a history of violence, but it seems like Esther caught on pretty quick. So I got a couple questions for y'all. Number one, was Esther under any duress?
No.
Hard no. She was
She's involved. She knew what she was doing.
Yeah, no, I can't even believe she would try to use it.
Not only was she involved, he trusted her to be involved. This wasn't an abduction kind of thing.
Yeah, no, he's
he this isn't a Starkweather thing at all. This lady, he trusted her to go out and subdue 2 old people while he killed the rest of them.
Yeah, he's go distract them. Yeah, it's...
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, that it almost feels like a stupid question to even ask, but just because she posed it herself. Question number 2. Did Esther participate in the shootings of Pauline and George, or do you think that it was Shane? All Shane?
It's a hard one.
I think that because her fingerprints were also on the guns, that she was involved. I don't care if you carried the gun or whatever, if you didn't pull the trigger, but you stood there and you watched those people die. I mean, how many guns did they have? Good Lord.
4 in total, 2 BBs. But
well, I mean, if you could have picked up one of those guns and said, if you do it, I'm going to shoot you. I don't know exactly what the situation was and whatever, but come on, Esther.
Well, the scenario would have to be that she's just for some reason picking up the weapons and
Yeah.
looking at them like, oh, what a lovely,
This is so cool.
like with a cup of tea. English,
The pinky out.
English breakfast. Is this a Tech 9? You know.
Oh, shit.
Okay, all right.
Last question. Did Esther and John set Shane up?
No,
No.
John didn't know. He probably knew they were out doing stupid stuff.
Apparently he knew they were cheating because that's like in the conversation where she told him I killed for you.
Here's the thing about it is that people in jail got people outside, on the outside. They got family, they got friends, and if you're running in the same circles, you're going to know what's going on out there.
Well, and here's the thing. If it was you, you wouldn't give the police any information. But if you kind of cared about someone, but she was a dirty little cheater, you'd be like, I would like $100,000, please. It was her. Even if I loved her, I'd probably do it. I'd be like, I'm so in love with you, but I want money.
No, he I don't know. I'm not saying he didn't have anything to do with it, but he wasn't there.
Yeah.
For any of it. He was in jail. His alibi is pretty tight.
Yeah.
And how much phone time did you get in 97?
Well, and it's recorded, so nice try, but like there was no history of that reported by police or from any resource. Like you would have they can hear you. Loser. Yeah. So the last thing I was going to bring up about this is I thought it was interesting. The reporting was very different. So like, you know, I don't think it's the number one resource, but like even like Murderpedia, they had a profile for Shane, but not for Esther.
Mm-hmm.
It was easier to find information on Shane than it was on Esther, even though she has the jailhouse interview,
Mm-hmm.
which I suggest you watch it. It's nothing that would give you the heebie-jeebies, but just knowing that she's full of shit and watching her. But like everywhere they made it out like Shane was worse, and he got more time too, which, you know, in part is because she testified against him. But there's like an episode of Deadly Women, and they're like, this woman is especially evil, and that's the first time I saw it mostly focused on her, like,
Yeah.
because she's a woman, and they're like, oh, the man must have been the ringleader, but it sounds to me like she led her own rings.
Yeah, I think she was leading everyone around by the you know what. And
No, by the what? Say it.
but it's a like if your dad comes in and he says to me, you know, get prepared, get ready, we're going fishing.
Yeah.
Okay, just going fishing. So I'm going to go fishing. I know we're going fishing. We're going to go where fish are.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you take a fishing pole.
You take a fishing pole. If you get in the truck and you take 4 guns,
Yeah.
you know, you're going where you can't be. She can't be dumb. She can't be that dumb. Come on now.
No.
Pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so
There was no gun to her head.
no, I don't know what they were thinking at the time, but this stuff always gives me like Bonnie and Clyde vibes, like, oh, or like what's it, True Romance, where they're like, oh, we're so in love and we're gonna get messed up and kill everyone really irresponsibly and go down together. And I'm like, have fun with that 2-week plan. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I think she got what she deserved. I think he got what he deserved, and it's still not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And my heart just goes out to all of these people that were affected by this. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many. So many.
Yeah, it really affected the community there, and that kind of thing is the kind of thing that makes the town start to feel unsafe. And, you know, in 1996, it was probably still like a small city, and now it's a city to some degree, and so, yeah,
It's practically metropolis.
it's a metropolis. All right, well, that's our whole story, and we're happy that you joined us to listen if you made it this far.
We came.
We saw.
We saw some weird ass shit.
Bye.
Bye.
That's the funny.
I'm Faith.
And I'm Sharon.
Join us next time on She Sees Weird People.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have a weird story to tell or a case idea, contact us at weirdpeople@sheseesweirdpeople.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at She Sees Weird People Podcast. This podcast was written, hosted, and produced by Sharon Metcalf, Faith Donovan, and Lisa Metcalf, and produced by Sedona Brave Studios. Keep it real, guys.